Hi, it's Jeff Cotterman here, and I'm here with Dr. Brian Lenskes, and we're doing another one of a series of videos on just some new things that have really kind of changed my life, changed your life, and we want to share that. Basically, I've been a licensed sports nutritionist, a performance coach, athletic coach for 27 years. You've been well, tell me what you...
Yeah, I've been a primary care doc for the last 13 years. And so we're both seeing the same problem, and we don't know how to fix the problem.
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
And so we keep doing the same thing over and over, which is the definition of insanity, doing the same thing without getting results for your patients or your clients.
Right, yeah. So there's a certain section of my clients that were just unresponsive, that were just not getting results, and I'd literally be pulling my hair out over them because they were doing their due diligence. They were doing workouts. Yeah. They were following a particular menu plan with a certain amount of calories, a certain amount of macronutrients, and they weren't gaining muscle. They weren't losing fat, and it would come down to, are you really following this program? Are you lying to me?
Because we think everyone's lying. We get cynical after a while. So I have a patient that I put them on insulin. We're trying to get their sugars under control, and they gain 20 pounds the next time they come back. And we look at them and think, you're lazy and dumb. What is wrong with you? Get on the program. You guys start. So they do what we tell them to do, and then they come back and they're sicker in 3 months, and then worse. So we see this ongoing worsening of their condition.
Yes.
So we wonder, why is that? We're putting them on insulin. Well, we all know. Anyone out there who injects insulin knows wherever you inject insulin, you get a fat deposit.
Yes.
Right? 80% of diabetics are going to die of heart attacks because of insulin resistance. So sometimes we have to step back. And the frustration is, look, guys, calories in, calories out. Still people, I just got into a little debate with someone yesterday about this. They say, no, calories in, calories out. Well, those of us who've known, we go on a diet and we lose weight for a while. Then we plateau out and we get frustrated. Okay, I'm going to cut my calories more. I'm going to exercise more. Mm-hmm. And your weight doesn't change. Mm-hmm. And then you do it harder. I'm going to go even lower on my calories and exercise more and see what happens. And your weight doesn't change. Mm-hmm. Then you get to the point you say, forget it. I've done this forever. If I eat whatever I want to eat, generally I'm going to go to a certain set point. Mm-hmm. So you could be off the rails for a year and say, well, I only gained 20 pounds instead of gaining 40 pounds from when I started. Mm-hmm. Right? So we're not fixing the underlying disease process. And it's the same thing if you come to me with a fever and I say, well, you have a fever, let's put you on Tylenol. We'll bring your fever down. But you have pneumonia, and we're not treating the pneumonia. Yeah. So what we're doing is we're treating the symptom all the time instead of the underlying problem. Yeah. And the hard truth is that it's insulin resistance is the problem. And that's the hard concept for us to understand. When our insulin levels are super high, that is what makes us store fat, right? So when we start getting more sensitive to insulin, then we can get away with a few more things. I have guys who've made themselves insulin sensitive without knowing what they did. And now they say, Doc, I cheat all the time. I'm having cake at the weddings, and I'm doing things. And my weight's staying stable. What do you think? Well, because you're insulin sensitive now. Now, if you go off the rails for too long and you keep doing that, right?
So I think bring themselves back, but they've become the person that they loathe in the beginning. Oh,
exactly.
You could eat anything. The rules don't apply to you.
Yeah, everyone says that, and most of my obese patients, when they come in, myself included, I look and say, look, I'm eating less than everyone. If I eat like that, I weigh 400 pounds, right? So you get to a point where you say, gosh, I'm killing myself, I'm doing all this stuff. And that's, people always ask the question, how does someone get to be 400 pounds? How do you get there, right? How do you possibly say you can't put your shoes on anymore? It's because they've tried everything. You've tried weight loss and you lose it, then you gain back more to where you were because you never fixed the underlying pathology, which is the insulin level. This is what we're going to hammer home, right? Because we all know if I put someone in, if I want to make you gain weight, I put you on insulin. You will gain weight. There's no one who's lost weight on insulin. If anyone out there, send me an email.
Oh, wait.
It's true.
I've had some clients, hold on, I've had some clients where they come to me and their purpose is to gain weight, right? And they're looking at their calories. So good case study. It's in our sports nutrition course where we teach. So a guy's eating 5,000 calories a day. He's only burning 4,000 calories a day. So he's a 1,000 calorie surplus, but not gaining weight. So there's calories in, calories out. And we put this question out to our students. What's wrong with this guy? He's eating more than he's burning, and he's not gaining weight. He's not gaining fat. He's not gaining muscle. He's trying to get bigger. Well, what's the problem? A calorie not a calorie, right? If you don't have the ability to absorb, process, and assimilate or metabolize that calorie, it's either going to go right in the toilet or what else? You know? So,
Yeah, and so that's what we have to look at. It's not an energy balance problem necessarily.
yes.
Now, some guys say calories don't count, eat whatever you want, you're gonna eat fat all day long.
That's over the other way.
That's over the other edge, right? Because at some point you're gonna have an energy, but if you're taking in 6,000 calories a day and you're burning 2,000 calories a day, it's gotta go somewhere, right?
Yes.
The point is, when we cut our calories super low, our bodies, it's just like if you get a pay cut. You know, you say, okay, cut the cable, get rid of this, get rid of that. Your body starts decreasing function. So that's why we hit plateaus. That's why we get frustrated, because like, I'm doing the same thing I've been doing and it was working before. Now it's not working anymore.
Right.
Because your body's saying, uh-oh, I'm not getting enough energy and you're burning too much energy. I got to store some of this. I got to keep some fat on this because we want to survive. Our body wants to survive, right? Fat is there for times of famine, right? We have fat that we store, so it's an energy source. We need it. So it doesn't make any sense that when we need our energy, now your body says, I'm not going to use that. I'm going to burn muscle instead. It just doesn't make sense, right? That's what we've told people over. I know that was your biggest concern too, right? Is you're going to lose your glycogen storage, you're going to be tired, you can't perform. Now you're having experience where you have athletes that are high intensity athletes that are doing well on a higher fat, low carb diet.
Even anaerobic athletes, which is very compelling to me.
Exactly. So that's why it's so exciting, because I see it from my medical perspective and you see it from the sports and fitness perspective, right? So I think when you start seeing success, you think, wow, these guys that were eating velvet toast and they're eating rice crackers all day and they're miserable. They put a little peanut butter on them. That's their lunch. And then, so they're cutting their cut and they're not seeing results. So after a while, you say, forget it, right? Then you gain 10 pounds. Then your knees hurt and your back hurts. Then you gain 10 more pounds. Then you gain 20 pounds. That's how it happens. It doesn't happen overnight, you know? So I think it's once you understand the underlying pathology, it's easy to say, oh, if I fast for a day, I drop my insulin level down, right? Once we're able to do that, right? If I'm on a higher fat diet, if I'm eating bacon and eggs and things like that, I'm not spiking my insulin up. So with my type 1 diabetics, as we've talked before, I see them spike their insulin like crazy, and they're having cereal for breakfast with milk and low-fat milk, right? With tons of sugar in that. So everything they're eating is carbs, and they wonder why they can't lose weight and their sugars are going up, right? Because everyone told them this is healthy. If you eat granola, it's healthy. You eat this, it's healthy. Eat a well-balanced, healthy diet. And you start realizing some of our well-balanced stuff, we're way overkilling it on the carbohydrates.
I think that's the key right there. One, we need to educate. Most people think they're eating healthy, and they're eating healthy foods, but they're not combining the foods or eating the right amounts, the right portions. So, and they need to be educated that a piece of fruit is not the best thing for everybody, or too much fruit, and absolutely no fruit at all is an extreme thing, right? But in some cases, patients are going to have to stay away from fruit. They're going to have to cut down fruit. But how do they know, right? So we got to do something that's personalized. We got to do something where we figure out what's right for that person.
And I think, like we talked about it, the first thing when I talked to Jeff about ketogenic diet, which is a more extreme carbohydrate deficiency, right? You're cutting your carbs down super low so that you're burning fat as your fuel source rather than sugar, right? That's a huge deal. But it's not the magic. You don't have to be in ketosis, right? If you cut your carbs down, you cut the low-hanging fruit first. So I tell people, let's get rid of processed foods quickly, right? You get rid of Coke and Pepsi, you're going to lose 20 pounds right there, right? Drinking a bunch of beers at night, get rid of that, or cut it back, or do it every other night instead of every night. You're going to see a benefit. Now it depends on what your goals are, right? Like we've talked about, I think at some point, some of us can about 1/3 of people are insulin sensitive. They're blessed and they're lucky, right? Because they can get away with anything, they don't gain weight, and they look at the rest of us like we're sloths, right? We're not doing what we need to do. If we just did what they did, we'd be perfect. 2/3 of us are insulin resistant. Now, over time, the more we're eating bad foods and doing stuff, we become insulin resistant. We all know people who are skinny their whole life, then they get older and they gain all this weight. And they say, oh, they're getting older, so they're gaining weight. No, it's because you're insulin resistant now. That's the point. And that's the hard thing, because most of us docs, most nutrition people are saying it's a calorie balance. That is the main fee. It is part of it. But the main thing is insulin resistance. Until we get that through our heads, we have 70% of people in America who are overweight, 40% are obese, right? We're following the guidelines. When you look at what people are eating, we're eating less red meat, we're eating more of this, more of that. And so it's frustrating for people because they're doing, it's like if you're a teacher and one kid's failing your class or two people are failing your class, then that's probably their problem. But when you have 70% of the people failing the test, that's a teaching problem, right? You're not teaching the right stuff, or you're not testing on the right stuff. So I think we're at that point in America. We're starting to see the tipping point, and there's more and more doctors understanding this and having great success with their patients. Because as we talked about, I think our goal is, hey, let's give you the tools. You don't need us the rest of your life, But if we can go 6 months and we get you on the right track, you're on the right track and you get it, right? At some point we work ourselves out of a job. Fortunately for us, there's tons of people that need it, right? And they're gonna come in.
Right.
And so we're gonna have people that we educate, but it's gonna take 20 years for the medical community to catch up, just like anything. You know, if we start antibiotics and people don't believe in antibiotics, so it takes a long time to get you to convince that, you know, that what you're doing is not the right thing. And it's hard for us because we're educated, we've been through all the training we've done, and we were taught a certain thing. And it's scary sometimes. Like, it was scary for me to look back and say, where's the data for eating breakfast every single day? Where's the data that says my metabolism is going to go to zero? Where's the data that shows that eating 6 times a day, you're going to lose weight? I don't see anyone losing weight doing those things. No, at least not sustaining it, right? Now, if you switch from eating, you know, tacos every day and the French fries and all that to eating, you know, 6 really healthy meals, maybe you'll do better. But the point is that every time we eat, we're spiking that insulin level up. So by eating less, 3 times, when we were kids, you didn't have snack every 2 hours. You know, the guys working in the fields didn't stop. It's go, okay, stop the tractors. We're going to start eating every 2 hours because we got to keep our energy up. They realized they will work through lunch if they're busy, right? A lot of us do that and we feel guilty. We work through lunch and think, uh-oh, I just shut my metabolism down because I didn't eat lunch, right? No, it's okay because your metabolism, your body's set point is going to come from your insulin levels. That's what we have to get through our heads and say, okay, if I skip a meal here and there, our body is not so weak that we can't skip a meal here and there, right? And we're going to not be able to function all after. As a matter of fact, the opposite is true. Most people eat a huge lunch and they're in that food coma at the end of the day, right? So it's one of those things we have to start stepping back and looking at reality and what's working. My people who have implemented these things are killing it. Yeah, they're coming off meds, they're doing great, and it's shocking to me still as a doc to see it, right? Because for 12, 13 years, we don't see that. You don't see people coming off insulin on their own, right? Until you make some lifestyle change and you realize the underlying condition is that we're insulin resistant and we have to deal with that.
In my industry, in the fitness industry, especially in San Diego, it's so competitive that niches form out.
Sure.
And so we get these almost like dietary cults where, okay, paleo is the only way. If you're not paleo and you're not doing CrossFit and paleo, then you're an infidel. And get out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, sure.
And then you get other people that come in and say, listen, I'm going to do yoga and Ayurvedic type supplementation, and I'm a vegan. And if you eat meat, you are an infidel. Get out. All right? And then if I am another dietary regime, then I will not fit in. So one thing I want to make sure is that within what we've developed here, we're not pigeonholing people, and there are benefits to some athletes having a frequent small eating regime.
Yes, like we've debated and we've talked about, it's not a one size fits all. It's not that I have to be 0 carbs. For me, I have to be super low carb to lose weight. I'm insulin resistant. I have to be super low carb, and being in ketosis, skipping meals, intermittent fasting, you know, I'm down 45 pounds doing that, right? So for me, that's what I know, and it's working, and I'm not plateaued out. And if I do plateau, sometimes I have to eat more to get past that plateau, not eat less, right? It's the same thing in medicine. You know, sometimes we'll get people and their morning sugars are high, so we say, oh, your morning sugars are high. We got to go up on your insulin level, right? So we give them more insulin at night. And then their sugars get higher in the morning. We're giving them more insulin. Okay, keep going up, right? At some point, we realize, oh, we're dropping your sugars in the middle of the night, and your counter-regulatory hormones are kicking in. Your cortisol, things like that, glucagon, and you're raising up your sugars in the morning. So we cut back on their insulin at night, and guess what? The sugars normalize in the morning. Right? So sometimes it's that. Like you have someone at plateau, you go, we're going to keep cutting your calories until you get to 0, basically, to break through the plateau. Sometimes like, hey, go eat for a day or 2. Your body's in a shock mode right now. It thinks it's not getting nutrition, right? So that's the point is it's not a one size fit all. It's not like one formula is going to work forever. So that's when we need you to say, hey, look, you've been plateaued for 2 months. We got to start doing something. We got to break this somehow. What we're doing is not working any longer, right? So we know either we have to go up on your calories for a little while, or we have to drop your calories for a little while, or we got to cut out, you're having orange juice every morning. Let's get rid of that first, right? So I think the problem is we think one size fits all in diet. That's why we're all frustrated, because until we realize you can eat more fat than I can, you can eat more carbs than I can. So you don't want to have someone on a 0 carb diet if their body needs carbs and they feel terrible. Right. So it goes by how we feel. And if you hate spinach,
that's my point.
Right? I think what we do is we get a say, what do you like to eat? What do you enjoy eating? Right? If I don't like Melba toast, I don't want to eat Melba toast my whole life, right? If I enjoy it and I like that, I'll say, okay, I'll cut carbs somewhere else and I'll have my Melba toast, right? So I think it's figuring out what works for you and what you enjoy and what you like, so you don't, being on a nutrition plan, I don't even like to call it a diet, right? It's a lifestyle. And if there's something that fits you and you like it, some people love fasting every other day. And I have people that have lost weight fasting every other day or fasting 2 days a week. And the other days they eat whatever they want. I don't agree with it, but it works. They're losing weight. Maybe from a health perspective, it's not going to help them, right? But they said, I want to have pizza with my guys on Friday. I want to do this. I don't want to give up all that stuff and be tortured, right? Other people say, hey, look, I can give up beer all weekend, all week. And then on the weekend, I go have beers with my friend. Does that work? So for each individual, if you're losing weight and things are going, keep doing what you're doing, right? But if it's not working, they say, yeah, we're going to have to cut the beers for a little while. We're gonna have to. So I think it's just looking at the individual and how they're going to respond. It's just like the medicines. There's certain meds that everyone says are great. I put my patient on, they feel terrible. Well, let's get you off that med. It's not working. It's not good for you, right? So that's when you're what we call an N of one. That means it's you, right? You're the experiment. And so you have to say, oh my goodness, when I'm eating certain foods, right? I had to figure out through all this stuff that I'm allergic to pecans and cashews now, right? So I figured it out by an elimination diet. And then you eat those things and you feel terrible. You start getting swelling and all this kind of stuff. And you realize it. So I think for all of us, we have to realize what works for us and what doesn't work. We know our bodies and we know what works and what doesn't work at some point. But the problem is that we've been told what is a healthy diet. For instance, I had a lady yesterday. She's gained 20 pounds in the last year. She's vegan. She's frustrated. She goes, I eat healthy. I don't eat carbs. And I said, cutting carbs. I talked to her about a lot of this stuff. She said, I don't eat carbs. But her whole meal plan is carbs, right? Quinoa, I just eat quinoa. That's healthy. This is healthy. This is healthy. Yeah, but everything you're eating is breaking down to sugar. You're insulin resistant already. It's not going to work for you. You got to increase your fat intake. You got to decrease your carbohydrate intake. Even though they're healthy carbs you're eating, quote healthy, because a lot of the grains and stuff we're eating, it doesn't have the nutritional value that it did 20, 30 years ago. So we're thinking we're doing the right thing and it's not working. And that's the frustrating part. That's why people give up. Because when I talked to her yesterday, she was in tears. She was like, I'm doing everything. I'm exercising. I'm doing all my stuff. It's not working. Okay, if it's not working, you don't keep doing the same thing. Let's try doing something else. And if you're vegan for conscientious reasons that you don't want to kill animals, cool. But for your health, it's probably not the best thing, maybe, right? So maybe you can eat more animal fats. More vegetable fats.
Right.
You can eat more coconut. You can eat more
avocado.
She happens to be she eats eggs. I said, eggs? Do you like avocados? I love avocados, but I haven't eaten it because I'm watching my calories, right? So she stopped her avocados. She stopped her olives. She stopped all this stuff, and she's eating all carbs basically all day. I said, and I was excited. I got goosebumps because I said, you're going to kill this thing. Cut those things out. Add more of this. Do this. Call me anytime. We're going to get you squared away, right? And she's going to kill it. I know. I already know because she's motivated. She's smart. She gets it. But she's been given bad information her whole life, right? As have all of us. And we've given bad information.
So there is a perfect example of someone who is educated, motivated to get results, and just totally frustrated because things aren't working. And so they turn up the volume on what they're doing, and they hit even harder brick wall.
Exactly.
And I think the key is they don't know how to be an N of one. They don't know how to be their own experiment. And I think that with the medical side of things, with the exercise, physiology, and nutrition side of things, now we can guide someone to be their own experiment. And we can succinctly, rather than just randomly try things, we can succinctly guide that experiment into here's what works. If it doesn't work, let's find out what works. And that's what's really motivating both of us, right? We're seeing crazy success with less effort, and they're doing things according to their own design. They're doing things the way their body was designed, and it's different than the way I was designed and the way you were designed. And we're kind of solving that puzzle.
Yeah, I think we have to be open-minded and look and say, okay, this is not working. This is not as good as we thought it was. So in 5 years, we may be sitting here saying, oh my gosh, that was the worst thing we ever did, right? I mean, you never know how it is. But you have to be open to that change. Just like this high-intensity interval training, right? When I first heard about that, I think this is crazy. You're going to work out for 5 minutes a day, and you're going to burn as many calories as running 45 minutes a day. Because a lot of people are busy, can't do that. They can't run for this or have a consistent workout program. And you look at the data, and it's shocking to me, right? I mean, you've seen some of this data.
Yeah,
high intensity. How in the world can they have the results without putting in all the time? Because it's not necessarily the time. It's not necessarily starving yourself. It's figuring out what works for you. And if you're an athlete who's running 5 times a week, then you could get away with way more carbs than I can sitting at my desk all day.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just fine-tailed. That's what our job is, to figure out what works for you. You know, if you hate steaks, we're not going to tell you to eat steaks every day, right? Figuring that out. It's like, you like to eat a vegan diet? Great. Let's make it work for you. So I think that's what we have to do, is make it so that it works for you, so it's a lifestyle. Because
So
I'm eating stuff I hate.
you don't feel like you're in food jail.
You don't have
or
to be
exercise
tortured.
jail.
When
Yeah,
I eat,
exactly.
sometimes I eat lunch and the ladies I work with walk in and they go, "Oh, you're off your diet." I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm eating. This is a low carb bagel that I made. This is healthy, cream cheese I can have, and the higher fat stuff, and I can have a piece of cheese on there, whatever. And it's
Right.
working. And if I start gaining weight, then I have to reassess and go, okay, I'm gonna get rid of the low carb bagel. I'm gonna get rid. We have to figure that out, and part of it's us understanding our own bodies, but a part of it's saying, okay, look, your experiences, you've had 30 people who weigh more than 300 pounds, and here's what's worked, and here's what doesn't work, and then you tailor what you do to what works.
Mm-hmm.
But for the individual, they may have something different. They may be that one person in a million that could eat steak all day and lose weight, or they have to do this, or they have to cut some of their vegetables out there, or they're higher in sugar type thing. So I think that's the point, is that we tailor it for the person and it works. And when you have benefits and it's working, you're gonna stick to that lifestyle because you feel good, your energy comes up, you're taking off meds, self-esteem goes up, all that stuff happens, right? So it's just figuring it out. We just gotta figure out the problem.
Figure it
right?
out. Exactly.
Yeah.
Figure out what it comes down to, figuring out what works. And we've developed a method of figuring out what works, even for the hardest cases. And I think that's the real value. And I think that we should do a lot more videos like this.
Yeah, I love it.
And we're going to start to separate them into topics. But bottom line, figure out what works for you. And if you need our help, we're there. But there is a way, and it's not just about will and knowledge. It's about solving that puzzle and using your body and according to the way it was designed and the way it's meant to be. You can't fit a round peg in a square hole.
Yeah, and I think too, having that support system, that's something we have to build too. And we have a community of people. We were just talking this morning, if we have a class for everyone who's over 300 pounds, and we all come work out together, so we don't have to feel like the person who stands out in the room. You have a one for triathletes, you have one. So just figuring out what works and having that sense of community where you don't need us, and you get to turn to each other and say, hey, what's working for you? How did you lose your 50 pounds? What was the hardest part? What was the easiest part? What are your tricks? And so, because we all have knowledge, we've all done stuff, and we know what works and what doesn't work, right?
Yes.
So sometimes that information is extremely helpful in the community, plus having accountability. For weight loss programs, it doesn't work unless you have accountability. They're coming to I have patients who come in all the time, they'll say, I fasted for, I cut out all sugar for the last 2 weeks, I knew you were gonna check my sugars, I want it to be right? Well, it's a 3-month sugar average, so cutting off for the last couple of days or not eating fat for 2 days doesn't really make much of a difference. But it's that point of knowing that you're coming. So if I know I have to see you every week and you're gonna weigh me, I don't wanna come and go, Jeff, I've gained 5 pounds this week because I blew it, right? So having that accountability helps, having community, having people in your house that understand, your friends understand at work, and being able to have them as a social support. Because we all know, we send someone to rehab for alcohol, they're doing great in rehab, they go home and they hang out with all their friends who are drinking, right? It's a disaster, you're gonna fail. So I think part of that is being able to say, okay, this works for me, and I'm gonna stay the road, even if all my friends say I'm crazy, even if everyone who's out there, because you have to understand, these guys are looking at old information, and they haven't even looked at the information, because a lot of the information isn't there, right? With eating breakfast every day, all these things, you look and it's not there. So I've been telling people stuff that's not there because I trusted you or someone like you who said, yeah, this is the nutrition, this is what we have to do. So I think tailoring for you, building the community, getting the bad stuff out of your house when you have those weak moments, preparing ahead so that you can say, okay, look, Wednesday's a tough day for me, I'm gonna have my lunch, I'm gonna have everything there, so I don't go have pasta with my friends that day, right? So it's a lot. We have personal, because a lot of people get upset with me because they say, you're taking this whole personal responsibility out of it, because these guys are all fat because they're lazy and they're stupid and they're not following what they do and they're lazy. And it's not true. It's not true when you look at it. A lot of these guys at the gym, you see them, they're working out at the gym, they're training with you, they're doing this stuff, but they're just not doing the right stuff. And it's frustrating because there's such a judgment that gets put on it, right? So we're not taken seriously as a game. There's a lot of negative association with obesity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem. So you weigh 200 pounds or 300 pounds and you're going for a job interview against a triathlete guy who's cut in his suit and looks great, and you're doing sales. It's going to be hard. That's just the reality of how the world is, right? So I think there's so much, because they assume this person's lazy, they're not smart because they've let themselves get to that point. And that's not true. I have a lot of very intelligent, very hardworking people, I was 50 pounds heavier not too long ago. I was smart, I knew this stuff, and I looked at the data, I've done this stuff. But I had to look and do what worked for me, right? And so at some point you have to say, what works for me, right? It doesn't matter what my neighbor says or my friend or people that don't have knowledge in this area, because all the time, no one would be doing this. And we're so fortunate this time because now we have data. we have data that's showing that higher fat, low carb will have a better survival. There's the Pure study. There's every week there's stuff coming out. I'm overwhelmed with stuff. I can't even read all the studies that are coming out now, because there were pioneers that were bold, and they took a step of faith, and they said, this is right, and I know it's right, but I can't prove it with data. So if I come to you like that, you're gonna say, Brian, that's your opinion. But now we have data. The first thing you said is, show me your data. Here you go. Here's this study. Here's this study. Here's this study. Here's studies with athletes. Right? When you have the data, now we know. It's going to take 20 years for other people to get on. So all you can do is make yourself better. And when you're down 30 pounds, 40 pounds, 50 pounds, and you're feeling great and your energy's up, everyone's going to ask you, what are you doing? Right? So I tell people, don't even tell them what you're doing if you're fasting or if you're cutting your carbs. Don't tell people, because everyone's going to freak out. Right? But when they see you having results that they're not having, they're going to say, okay, what are you doing now?
Right.
Now you have credibility. And that's where we're at. We have credibility. We're showing benefits. We're looking at the problem, and we're solving the problem. I mean, you want to help save our healthcare system? This is how we're going to do it. We got to make, and plus, again, this is where personal responsibility comes into it. It doesn't take it out of it. It makes it more, because now you have the tools. Are you going to do that? Are you, when you sit down and everyone's having a big bowl of ice cream, and you say, I'm not going to have ice cream today, but maybe next week I will, right? It's taking that personal responsibility. So we're not alleviating people of personal responsibility. As a matter of fact, it goes up, because now you have the tools that are going to make you a better.
So here's the challenge. Here's the challenge. We want you to be the pioneer for you, right?
Yeah.
We want you to step out, take a leap of faith, do something different for you. You are your own experiment, right? And you are ultimately going to be your own result, right? And now your safety net, though, your safety net is exactly what I asked for, and exactly what Dr. Lentz has got for me, and that is research, credibility. This is not a whim. It's not a fad. You can literally do this in a cloak of scientific safety, because we're not going to make you do something crazy that's just totally wrong for your body. It's got to be right for your body, and it has to have credible research to back it up. And that's how we'll move forward. So if you really want to make a change and step out of your box, do something different, do even something opposite than what you've done safely, then talk to us about it, because we're excited about this, and it's what drives us, seeing people change.
No, that's why we can't do a 5-minute talk, right? We try and then we get too excited. So
yes.
When we break down our topics and we're able to go through things one by one, and I think having feedback from people emailing you, right? And say, hey, here's my concerns, here's what I heard, because that's what you did to me. You hammered me with a bunch of questions, right? I felt like I was having a job interview, but I had to answer those questions for you to understand what I'm saying. So I think that's important too, that if people say, I heard this about keto, I heard that, it's important. And there's so many resources out there now. I mean, there's great resources on these topics, right? So it's not like we're in the dark and just saying, oh, we think this. Not what we think, is what it is, right? So a lot of our food, all these things are based on opinion, right? Let's get rid of red meat because people are having heart attacks. Let's do this. You react because there's a problem and you want to fix the problem, and that's what we do. Sometimes we react to make the problem worse, and that's what we've done. That's in reality what we've done.
Nutrition is not a belief system. It's a science.
Yeah, exactly. So now it's hard science coming out. A lot of the guidelines, when you go back and look, it's based on what someone believed. A group of people got together and said, yeah, we think this is bad for you, so let's get rid of it, right? Rather than say, let's see what the data shows and the studies show. Because there's things I believe, and I look at it, I was like, well, it's not good for you to eat that, right? You know, like certain things that could make you worse, really. So I think that's it. I think that, as a community we work in, and I think your job is to answer questions. My job is to answer questions, because I'm not going to go into a program that's going to make me have a heart attack or stroke or that. We got to look at the whole big picture and understand that sometimes we're focused on the wrong problem and the wrong thing, and we have to change what they call a paradigm shift, right? You and I had to have a paradigm shift to step back and say, what are we doing? And evaluating. And I think for all of us, looking back, okay, I tried this diet, I tried this, what's worked and what hasn't worked? And we know what works for us. So you may say, 10 years ago I was on this keto diet and I lost weight, right? Or 10 years ago I did this and I was doing great, then I just went off it, right? So I think it's figuring out, because I went on vacation and I got off track and I just never got back to my 3 days a week workout. I'm too busy now. I'm trying to figure that out. So I think it's that. It's seeing knowing what has worked for you in the past, right? And then figuring out how do we fine tailor that now, knowing what we know to make it a great program.
Right on. Amen. All right.
Exciting stuff.
We'll see you next time.